Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today we're jumping right in, looking at Boeing, the aerospace giant,
Mm.
specifically how they use market research. It's not just about selling planes, is it? It seems to shape the actual design.
Oh, absolutely. And how they try to improve the whole flying experience, too.
Right, make it a bit less, well, less awful sometimes.
Exactly. We've been digging into this piece from Cognitive Market Research. It just came out April 7th, 2025.
Okay.
And it's called How Did Market Research Help Boeing Redefine Aircraft Design and Customer Experience? Hmm. Really interesting stuff.
So it gets into how they figure out what airlines need, but also what passengers, like us, what we want up there at 30,000 feet.
Precisely. It digs into that balance.
Okay, so for everyone listening, our mission here is to really unpack how a massive company like Boeing uses all this feedback, all this data,
Yeah, how it fuels their strategy, their innovation.
and helps them stay competitive because that industry is, well, it's tough.
Fiercely competitive. Yeah.
And I suspect the way they do it, there might be lessons for, lots of different fields.
Definitely think so.
Okay, let's dive in. How does this market research actually translate into designing these incredibly complex machines?
Well, the article points out this isn't a new thing for Boeing. They've been actively seeking feedback for, well, decades.
Right, not just a recent fad.
No. They're constantly talking to airlines, obviously, the ones buying the planes,
Their main customers.
but also passengers, industry experts, trying to pinpoint the real challenges. Where can they actually make things better?
Better for the airline's bottom line and better for us in the back.
That's the goal, yeah. Efficiency and comfort.
And the Dreamliner, the 787, that seems like a key example here.
It really is. The article uses it as a prime case study.
Sounds like they did a ton of research before they even started sketching it out.
Oh, absolutely. Really comprehensive stuff. They wanted to get a real handle on what airlines valued, what passengers needed.
And what came out of that? What were the big demands?
A few key things popped up. Airlines were very focused on fuel efficiency, managing costs,
Always number one, I bet.
pretty much, and also more flexibility, like being able to fly different kinds of routes efficiently.
Okay. And passengers, what were we asking for?
Well, maybe no surprise, but better comfort, a more pleasant journey overall.
Okay, so you've got these big asks, efficiency, flexibility, comfort. How did those become actual features on the 787?
You can draw a pretty direct line. That need for fuel efficiency, that directly drove the decision to use a lot of lightweight composite materials.
Instead of just aluminum.
Exactly. A big shift. It made the plane much lighter, so it burns less fuel. That's huge for airlines.
Makes sense. And for the passengers, the comfort part.
Well, those bigger windows you notice on a Dreamliner, they came from research suggesting people feel less cooped up, more connected to the outside.
Huh. I never thought about the psychology of window size.
Right. And quieter engines, too, addressing noise. And really importantly, that advanced cabin pressurization.
How does that work? The pressurization.
Basically, their research showed that keeping the cabin pressure closer to what you feel on the ground and with higher humidity.
Less dry air.
Yeah, exactly. It could actually help passengers feel less wiped out after a long flight, less fatigue.
That's fascinating. So engineering based directly on how flying makes us feel.
It's a great example. It's not just about the metal, it's the human side.
Those bigger windows, quieter cabins. We kind of expect them now on newer planes, but it's neat that they came from specific feedback.
Absolutely. And it goes further. The article mentions things like seat layouts, too.
Right, the endless puzzle of fitting seats in.
Boeing works with airlines on that. How do you maximize seats for profit, but, keep passengers reasonably happy?
A tricky balance.
Very. And then there's in-flight entertainment. What do people want to watch? How do they want to interact with it? That's constantly evolving.
Yeah, screens keep getting bigger.
And even optimizing cargo space. That helps airlines run efficiently, keeps their costs down, which, in theory, helps ticket prices. It's all interconnected.
Right, the whole ecosystem. Airline costs, passenger experience. So, okay, that's the initial design. But the article also talks about using research specifically for the customer experience once you're on board. How's that different?
Yeah, this is about the finer points, the journey itself. Initial design tackles the big stuff, but the customer experience focus is about making the flight feel positive, maybe even memorable in a good way.
Which is important for airlines, right? Brand loyalty.
Hugely important,
Yeah.
especially now. A good flight experience can be a real differentiator. So Boeing's research here looks at the subtler things affecting how passengers feel during the flight.
Okay, give me an example, something tangible.
The Boeing 737 Sky interior, that's a perfect one. Research showed passengers really preferred a cabin that felt more open, more relaxing.
Felt so perception matters.
A lot. So with the Sky interior, they didn't necessarily make the tube wider, but they used tricks, like that customizable LED lighting.
Oh yeah, the mood lighting.
Exactly. Airlines can change it maybe blue for boarding, warmer tones for meals. It sounds small, but it can really change the feel of the cabin.
Interesting. What else?
They redesigned the overhead bins, made them bigger, pivot down.
Ah, the holy grail. More bin space.
We all want it.
Yeah.
But it also makes the ceiling feel higher, more open, and again, practical. Easier to get your bag in. Plus, more work on reducing cabin noise.
I never realized the bin design was tied to passenger feedback about feeling spacious. That's smart.
It all connects back.
And earlier you mentioned jet lag. That's a big one for long flights. How does Boeing research tackling that?
Yeah, this is where it gets into like human factors research. Really interesting stuff. Their study suggested that better pressurization.
Right, closer to ground level pressure.
Exactly. And higher humidity levels could seriously reduce the physiological stress that makes jet lag so bad.
Makes sense. Less drying out, less physical strain.
So as a direct result, the 787 got that more advanced environmental control system. It tries to
Yeah.
create a cabin that's just less taxing on your body, especially on those really long hauls.
So it's not just surveys asking what do you want, it's actual science about how flying affects us than engineering solutions.
Precisely. A much deeper level.
Okay, so this leads into the next point in the article, the growing role of data. It sounds like it's way beyond just surveys now.
Oh, yeah. That qualitative stuff, the feedback, it's still super important for understanding feelings and spotting new needs.
But now they're crunching numbers. Big time.
Big time, big data, predictive analytics. They're analyzing huge data sets. Things like anonymized flight data from planes actually flying, passenger surveys the airlines collect, maintenance logs, feedback from ground crews, pilots, just vast amounts of information.
Okay, that sounds like a lot. How do you even begin to get useful insights out of all that? What can they learn?
By sifting through all that, they can spot trends and patterns you'd never see otherwise. How are the planes really being used day to day?
Right, not just how they were designed to be used.
Exactly. How often do certain repairs pop up? They can even try to anticipate future industry needs based on travel patterns, economic shifts.
So it helps them make smarter decisions about new planes, upgrades, even maintenance.
Much more data-driven decisions, yeah,
Yeah.
across the board.
The article mentions the 737 MX here. Obviously, that plane's had a difficult history, but how did market data influence its initial development?
Well, a huge factor was the rise of low-cost carriers,
Yeah,
LCC.
the airlines, yeah, that they exploded.
Market analysis showed their growing power
Mm.
globally, and the data said these LCCs had very specific needs. Top of the list,
Mm.
lower operating costs,
To keep those fares low.
right, and higher seat density, packing more people in,
Ah.
and of course, better fuel efficiency. Fuel's always a massive cost.
So the MAX, with its new engines designed for better fuel burn, that was Boeing trying to meet those specific LCC demands shown by the data.
That's exactly what the article suggests. The design, especially the choice of those efficient LAP-1B engines, was a direct response to what that big, growing market segment needed to make their business model work.
Meeting the needs of a specific data-identified customer group.
Precisely. More seats, lower fuel burn. That was the pitch.
Makes sense from a business perspective. Now, beyond designing planes, the article also mentioned using data for maintenance and reliability. How does that work?
Yeah, this is quite proactive. They monitor real-time performance data streaming from planes in service
Constantly.
constantly. Analyzing this data lets them spot tiny anomalies, things that might suggest a part could fail down the line.
Ah, predictive maintenance.
Exactly. Fix it before it breaks. This cuts down on unexpected delays for airlines, makes the planes more reliable overall.
And safer, presumably.
And safer, absolutely. It's moving from reacting to problems to preventing them based on how the planes are actually performing.
That's a really powerful application of data. Okay, let's talk competition. It's basically Boeing versus Airbus, right? How does all this research help Boeing stay ahead, or at least stay in the game?
In a market like that, you have to keep innovating. You have to see what's coming next. It's survival.
Right.
So Boeing uses these market insights not just to build what airlines want now, but to try and stand out from Airbus, to anticipate where things are going in 10, 20 years.
The article brought up the shift to point-to-point travel. How did they spot that, and how did it change their strategy?
Well, looking at booking data, route performance, passenger surveys again, it became clear people increasingly wanted direct flights.
Yeah, avoiding those big hub airports if possible.
Exactly. Less hassle saves time. Recognizing that trend was key, so Boeing strategically focused on planes with longer range.
Like the Dreamliner again?
The 787 was perfect for that, letting airlines fly long distances efficiently between smaller city pairs, and the upcoming 777X built on that too.
So they saw people wanted direct flights, and they built the planes to make those routes possible and profitable for airlines.
That's the strategic link. Market insight driving aircraft design to meet an emerging demand.
Very clear example. And the article also stresses that Boeing works really closely with the airlines. It's not like they design in secret and then just unveil it.
No, definitely not. It's very collaborative. They have airline advisory panels, workshops. They get regular feedback on potential designs, new features.
Even talk to pilots.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Getting input from the people flying the planes every day is crucial. It makes sure the designs work in the real world, meet actual operational needs.
And builds relationships, I imagine.
Vital in this business.
Yeah.
Strong, long-term partnerships.
Okay, so it's this whole loop. Passenger feedback, data analysis, airline collaboration. Looking at all this, what are the big lessons here? Things that businesses outside of aviation could learn from Boeing's approach.
The article pulls out some really good ones. First, just the absolute need to deeply understand your end user. Even if you sell to another business, like Boeing sells to airlines, understanding the ultimate customer, the passenger, is critical.
Right, don't lose sight of who actually uses the final product.
Exactly. Second, harnessing data analytics, moving past guesswork to make informed decisions. Not just product, but service, support, everything.
Makes sense. What else?
Balancing innovation with practicality. New features are great, but do they solve a real problem? Are they feasible? Do people actually want them enough?
Good point. Shiny new things aren't always better.
And then continuous adaptation. The market changes, tech changes, economics change, what people want changes. You have to be willing and able to adjust.
Stay flexible.
And finally, working closely with your stakeholders, airlines, pilots, regulators for Boeing. For other businesses, maybe suppliers, distributors, key partners, keep those lines open.
Those definitely feel like principles that apply almost anywhere. Okay, before we wrap up, let's hit that fast fact. Something specific that really drives home the impact of all this research.
Yeah, this one's pretty striking. For the 787 Dreamliner's development, they analyzed data from over 20,000 individual passenger surveys.
20,000.
Plus tons of airline operational data, economic trend analysis, just this massive research effort.
Yeah, and the result?
The result was an aircraft that's way more fuel efficient, which airlines love, and passengers genuinely find more comfortable and less tiring.
And it sold well.
Phenomenally well. Over 1,600 orders worldwide. It's a huge success story and a real testament to making decisions based on deep research and data.
20,000 surveys.
Yeah.
That really puts a number on their commitment to understanding the customer. Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, it seems really clear that Boeing's success, their ability to innovate, it's really tied to this deep ongoing effort to understand what everyone needs, airlines, passengers, using research, using data.
Absolutely. They're not just building machines in isolation, they're building solutions informed by the market.
So the final thought for everyone listening, think about this Boeing approach. How could those principles really understanding customer needs, using data smartly, adapting to change, how could you apply that in your world?
Yeah, whatever your field or interest is.
What could you uncover by really digging into feedback, looking at the data to make better products, better experiences, something to chew on? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.